Rockstars, today's guest used to engineer airplanes and car parts, and now he's engineering freedom for private practice owners. Meet Alexander Wielohorski. He is an MBA mechanical engineer, former corporate exec, and current COO of the largest privately owned physical therapy group in Alaska. Yeah, Alaska, where your team might have to ride snowmobiles to get to work. But don't let the spreadsheets and the strategic planning fool you. This episode is so full of heart. Alexander gets real about what it takes to lead through burnout, delegate with confidence, and scale a clinic without losing your sanity or your snow boots. He's got 25 years of clinical wisdom, an engineer's brain, which completely changes the color of this episode, and a dry wit of someone who's lived through meetings in 3 different hemispheres. So whether you're leading a team, starting a practice, or just wondering how the heck an aerospace guy ended up running a private practice, this one's for you. Enjoy the show. Man, Alex, I am so grateful that you're coming virtually all the way from Alaska at one of the most beautiful times of the year to be up there. Thanks for being on the show.
Hey, happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, you were invited because you are a powerful leader of one of my favorite outpatient practices in Alaska, no question. And you have a very different background. So could you set the stage for us? Tell us about you, your business, and what got you into this industry.
Perfect. Yeah. So Advanced Physical Therapy of Alaska we've been in operation for 25 years this August.
Wow.
And at this point, we are the largest privately owned, Alaska-owned and Alaska-operated physical therapy group in the state. We have 6 locations and still looking at opening more as we go forward. And it's a clinic that is based on, serving the community. We see every single insurance, some of them at a loss, and so we don't turn away patients, and we are very into being able to serve the communities in this state, which means bigger towns like Anchorage and Fairbanks, and very small towns like Seward. I'm not a physical therapist. I don't come from this industry. I'm a mechanical engineer. I have a master in business. I come from aerospace industries in airports and airplanes, completely different thing. You would think that physical therapy is simpler, but it's actually more complex because there's less resources, it's less structured, right? And what brought me into this industry is that I had my own experience 20 years ago in a car accident, and I had to go to physical therapy, and I was treated by this amazing person, which I'm still in contact with today. And she was fully committed to me, to my recovery, to my process of walking again. And that showed me what a great quality physical therapy or therapist is. And then I have later experiences in life where I actually had to go physical therapy again on a small motorcycle accident, and I was shown the worst side of it, where the business is more important than the quality of the healthcare that we're providing. Where I was one more patient of a group of 15 that were at the gym at the time. I had no one-on-one attention, and that kind of showed me both sides of the coin. And then when I was able to have the opportunity to be a part of this group, and I saw that they did physical therapy the way I liked it, the way it was done with me at my accident, I said I can show, or I can give some of my experience and my background to make this better and help them grow. So
you have a unique perspective in this. It's so passionate about the care because you were a patient. You were still driven in a way that lots of providers are, but you're an engineer. If freedom had a love language, it'd be delegation. So if you're tired of wearing all the hats, the CEO hat, the insurance hat, the why am I doing payroll at midnight hat, it's time to get help. Book a free discovery call at virtualrockstar.com, and let's show you how hiring a virtual assistant can finally free you up. We have paired hundreds of private practice owners with their ideal virtual rockstar assistants. Don't miss out on the second fastest growing trend in healthcare and in saving $20,000 per year of profit per hire. Remember, you deserve a business that gives more than it takes. You come to this business side of healthcare and private practice with an engineer and business mind. What are some of the unique challenges that you face? What are some of the things that make it hard for you to get freed up with with what you're doing in your business?
Yeah, I gotta say that the two things. The one thing is that there's got to be a focus. So that we are in the healthcare business, right? There's two
Yes.
pillars to that, right? There's healthcare and there's business. We got to take care of them both at the same time. And one of the things that happened in this group, and I notice in other groups as well, is that healthcare takes 90% of the focus, and business takes only 10. It's something like you have to do, but you're not putting attention to it, and that is just as important as the other section. And there was a lot of lack of structure, in terms of efficiency, in terms of visibility and indicators, in terms of how can we free resources as well to be able to provide better quality of physical therapy. And the other thing is that the insurance companies are not helping us. They're making it harder every year as they make cuts, and they make it harder for us to be able to build them as they're looking for ways to catch mistakes. So I always like to say is that we don't bill the insurance companies, we make a claim. So we're claiming, and they get the decision of saying yes or no, and how much.
I've never thought of that, by the way.
So it's not an
We're not
invoice.
billing the insurance company, we're filing a claim because they want us to. I never thought about the manipulation of that language.
And you file a claim to your insurance company when you have a car accident and you want to fix your car, and they can decide to pay how much they're paying. You got a deductible. It's the same thing. So they don't want to pay. That's their business, not to
right.
pay. And we are fighting against that. So if we're going to be doing that, we got to make sure that all of the processes are done right. They're consistent. They're precise. And that's where the engineering comes into. So I've been trying to optimize our systems and make sure that there's this solid background from the back office to make sure that we can continue to provide those services, but at the same time be sustainable and be able to grow from there as well. So I always say that there's 4 pillars to running a physical therapy business, like four legs in a stool. You got to provide physical therapy services, high quality. You got to be able to get paid for those services you already provided, and fast. You got to hire people to provide the services and run the back office. That's HR. And then you got to market. You got to make sure you get patients coming in through the door, because you can't just open the doors and rely on people to walk in or referrals to start coming in through your fax. So if you don't manage all of those 4, the business is not gonna move forward, or it's not gonna grow as you would expect it to do.
Your engineer mind, I'm sorry to interrupt, but your engineer mind, it's so cool how you're just categorizing these things. It's so insightful, isn't it, rock stars? We've had a lot of private practice owners, almost always healthcare providers initially. This is a passionate physical therapy business owner who has a engineering perspective, and he just that little shift alone of like claims versus bills. My gosh, like it's crazy to me. So you're aware of these resources that aren't available in the industry, and I'm guessing that you see where people get burned out in the industry as a result of lack of support in that way. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah. So one of the things is if you're a great baker and then you decide to open a bakery, you can't spend most of your time baking. No, you got to run a business now. So one of the challenges that we had is that the leadership team was comprised of mostly clinicians that were also having a patient load. So their focus was super split. So one of the things that we did to help with that in terms of the leadership was that we split the ownership, or the 4 owners. There's 2 PTs and 2 non-PTs. And
on purpose. You guys did that on purpose.
On purpose. That's our leadership team, right? And then, so I take care of, for example, all of the operations, so facilities, marketing, performance, and I supervise the clinic managers, which are all admin as well. And I'll tell you in a bit why we did that. And the second, then there's the one of my partners. She manages HR, billing, and all of the accounting and finances. And then the 2 PT owners and leaders there, they manage employee development, education, hiring in the sense of the interviews for that part, and just day-to-day mentoring. So each one is focused on one of these sections of the pillars that I told you about, so we can make sure this is moving forward. And then one of the because if you have to see 8 hours worth of patient or 10 hours worth of patient, and then you got to go into what's going on with the business, emails, stuff, you get burned out super quick. So that comes again. The other shift was we changed managers from clinical managers to admin managers, and there's a clinical lead that supervises the clinic, the clinicians in that group, in that location. But then you have an admin manager who's only job is to make sure the clinic is profitable, people are showing up, that they're doing their job, that they're following procedures, that they're adhering to policies, and everybody works as an own individual business in that sense. So I supervise those admin managers as well.
Okay, Alex, Rockstars, I need to punch a couple things that Alex said. He just spewed a lot of
Sorry.
incredible wisdom around freedom. Because listen what he was saying. Alex was talking about the power of recognizing the separation between the bakers and owning the bakery, right? And so there's intentional hiring of people who aren't clinicians because clinicians are so drawn to making the pie that they if they try to do both, they do what you said. And I remember this, Rockstars, the idea of wearing different hats in a business, of taking the energy that we lose when we take one hat off and put another hat on, is one of the primary causes of burnout for us as owners. So one of the techniques is to hire out and delegate. We're big on delegation on this show because the whole purpose of the show is to free you up, and delegation is one of the 3 core elements of that. The second thing is like putting silos. You do it with people. I've done it with time, where I've had to be like, okay, so Tuesday is my admin day and I will not touch a patient. It's not that an hour of patient care is that disruptive for the care. But it is super disruptive for the mindset in the zone of doing the actual admin work. And so it's neat that it's the second principle of being freed up is boundaries. Delegation, number 1. I'm sorry, I'm going to reverse those. Boundaries is number 1, delegation is number 2. So you guys have these boundaries that you created by hiring people. And so you delegated. You did both. You delegated to create your boundaries and or created owners within that company so that there was this balance of business and healthcare. So it's, not 90-10. Where would you guys say your percentage is at now?
Well, I think we're on a 50-50.
You're at 50-50.
Pretty split. I gotta say, as we have grown over this last 5 years since I took over, I've been taking steps back and being able to see a higher level and further out.
Yeah.
At the beginning, I had to do a lot of micromanaging and doing stuff on my own, and that was very exhausting. And eventually, as you start developing your systems and you start developing your procedures and you start adding people to take on those roles, you can start pulling back as well and focusing on what is actually key for your business at this moment.
I love that. Okay, man, let's get into some of these freedom elements. Now that they understand who you are, and you've already dropped a lot of knowledge around how to create freedom, let's talk about times. Can you describe a time when you had to let go of control and what happened as a result? Can you think of back in this journey of owning and like holding all this engineering knowledge? Is there a time that you had to let go, and what did that look
I would
like?
say recently, during COVID, we trying to survive. We had to, reduce a lot of our staff, and most of them actually left from Alaska to go back to their home states. And we were without a manager for a couple of our clinics, and I took on those roles, which was a great opportunity for me to go do the work that I was trying to develop for an admin manager, so I could understand what was needed and the challenges. Which was very time-consuming and exhausting for me to be able to manage 2 clinics remotely mostly, and that got me to a brink where there was a point where I wasn't being as efficient because I was not able to spread my energy through so much.
You had so many hats on, yeah.
And at that point, eventually, when we were able to hire the right people to those positions, that just opened up so much space and time for me to be able to focus on other things. Nowadays, we have managers on both locations, and they're being completely independent, even though it was hard to let it go because I was already doing it. So I was still supervising from the background and checking up on that, make sure everything was going right, until I got to a point where I said, no, this is working. I can let it go.
Yeah, I love that. And it's a powerful comment of like what we just described with wearing too many hats. Delegation is powerful, but you have to have someone to delegate to. So like in your cases, you guys had to bring on or hire people to delegate to. And then there's this other component of leadership that you mentioned. So looking at those pillars of being free, we have to hire well, and we have to have leaders in place. Even if we go to leaders, sometimes the best thing we can do to free ourselves up is first for us to go to leadership, right?
Yep.
And I think that's what I heard in your story, was that you had to step down from leadership into more of a coping position. And that was what led you to that moment of like feeling burned out. How important do you think leadership is in your company in helping you be free, like to do what you want to do?
I gotta say that it's more than being the doer. You have to step into being the coach, kind of like the with the
Coach.
team, right? Uh, you don't want to be telling people how to do their shots, but you be able to guide them to, this is where I want your focus to be, and this is where we need to put the energy today. So uh, I would say that more of the leadership position is coaching people to be able to do their jobs properly, to be able to have the support that they need, but they gotta be clear on what you're expecting. So that's why
Yeah.
we separate roles. So good example of that, it's a front desk role. The person at the front desk, even though they're seeing patients that are coming in, that are checking them in, each one has an individual responsibility. Somebody does collections, somebody does benefit checks, somebody does authorizations. Not all do everything, because then it's really hard to track accountability for that. When somebody owns the process, it's easy to go and say, you're slipping here, or you need help there, or you're doing great. When it's a big group and something messes up, everybody points to the guy next to them.
Right. Well, it's a powerful journey that you described, right? Leadership is important because you distinguished how a leader frees up both themselves and others by being a coach. I think that we confuse that. So I like that delineation between leadership and coach. Because when you were talking, here was the thought that came to my mind, Alex, was we start as doers. If, like in this case, we're baking the pies, we're the actual baker. But then we have to step into manager, where we're still baking the pies, but people are helping us. Then we step into leader, which is more of a coach position, where we're coaching others to bake the pies. Then we step into a CEO role, where we are overseeing the coaches to make sure that they're overseeing and teaching how to bake the pies. And then we become a founder, which is a passive owner, or we sell. That would probably be the best like path of freedom that you just helped me highlight, is this arc that we create as we learn to set boundaries, number one. Number two, delegate, but that comes on the heels of hiring and developing leadership. So very powerful,
So
Alex.
let me tell you a story. Back when I was working for the airline, at one point, that was my first time I was leading a team. I had a team of 5 people, and I was taking time off. I was going for a week of vacation, not too much, right? A week, and before I left, I met with my boss, and I told him, hey, I got everything controlled. Everybody knows what they got to do. I'm gonna be checking my email every day. I'm gonna be calling the mornings and the afternoons to make sure everything's fine. And he stopped me and said, listen, if you can't leave for a week without the boat sinking, you're not a very good manager.
Ooh.
And that stuck, because I said, yeah, that is the key. I got to make sure that the team is able to work without me. And I'm there to help them, but if I got to step out, nothing crashes, because the processes are not dependent on my involvement. That is the ultimate, I would say, free condition, where I can actually, go on my business, leave on a Friday afternoon, like I'm doing today, by the way, after lunch. I'm going camping, and I have no problem that, the rest of the day we will find. They'll close the clinics up, and we'll have a great afternoon, no issues. And if there's a fire, they'll be able to know how to handle it without me.
Yeah, it's a test of tests. One of my favorite things to tell people I used to coach as business owners was that idea of the goal for an owner to leave for a month. You talked about a week. When I coach clients, I try to get them to a month off a year. And people listening to this are like, how could you do that? And you can't do that in healthcare. It is important to do it, because it feels so selfish for people to take that kind of time, which goes back into that freedom delegation mindset of like, you don't understand, we are damming like a river. We're holding people back when we don't let them lead. And when we're on site, we can't help ourselves. We sabotage things. So by taking a month off, and there's ways to do that. You just don't say, hey, I'm going to the Caribbean. Good luck. But when you can build it and frame it, and the people when you hire rock stars, I've had people excited for me to leave because it's their chance to learn and grow and show me what they can do. And there's all sorts of cool ways to incentivize people to do that. Then you start to feel balanced in your business. It's like all the headaches we go through, rock stars of owning a company. How would it feel to have a full month off? And what's crazy is when you leave and things stay the same or get better because you're gone, mentally there's a break of like, I can be free. And that opens a whole world of possibility. So, Alex, let's get into some detailed questions. What are some tools or tech that you use that have been game changers for reclaiming your time?
Uh, I gotta say, one of the things that we've used, and I actually through you, is the virtual assistants. I don't have a personal virtual assistant, but we've implemented it in the clinics because since it has a low cost, it allows me to have enough staff or more staff to be able to spread the load evenly and be able to get them to higher performance versus overworking people,
Oh,
and
that's
that,
awesome.
that requires less supervision from my part, so that frees me up. In terms of technology, we do have some AI tools we've been adding in.
Okay.
So for my reporting, I do a lot of the back office reporting in terms of performance. So instead of having to go into the schedule and just count visits with my finger, we implemented an AI tool that allows me to pull reports and dice it and shave it and cut it however I want, so I can get some insights from how the clinic is performing, how the providers are performing, and it help especially allow me to find where I need to focus this next month.
What is that? What's the name of that tool that you're
It's
using?
called it's Prediction Health.
Okay.
They
And
have
that's an AI-based tool.
yes, they have for the providers they have a scribe tool and AutoNode and all that stuff, and they suggest help them with the Ask AI as well. So they look into 5 billion notes and give you some insight. So it helps them do their notes faster, less mistakes, and be more consistent in their billing. And from the manager perspective, I get all the data from every single note that has been made, so I can know exactly how they're doing in terms of auditing. If we get audit tomorrow, who is my weak link, and where is he weak? Who's the one that is dragging the underbilling and is dragging the group behind? All that stuff. So I can
Very
pinpoint
powerful.
those. Yeah.
Do your team love it?
Uh, Not all providers, I gotta say, they're still working on it. The ones that have jumped into it have seen the benefit of being able to do what we wanted to do. We wanted to do their notes during their work time. I don't
Yeah,
want
yeah,
you
yeah.
working on the weekend. That's a whole thing that you guys have to suffer with for years. So hopefully we can help with that.
That's always the goal. If we can get to the point with healthcare to where people leave at the end of the day with their last patient with all their notes done, that means we're freeing up our people. So it's interesting that with prediction health, there's definitely some benefit. It sounds like there's a learning curve that people have to adapt to. And when they get it, they really start to benefit from it. But
Like with
a
every
lot of
tool,
these tools are
you
new.
implement, yes, every tool you implement has a period where people are gonna, you have the first adopters, you're gonna have the ones that are jump in halfway through, and the ones that are gonna eventually get to it. But the whole point of this is that you got to use technology to support an already established system. Technology doesn't solve stuff on its own. You can just
No.
buy a tool, plug in something, and it'll just make your life easier. You got to have a system, and the technology supports that system. And as we have all these tools coming up. If they can help you reduce the time that you need to to put into a particular task or something, that is worth doing.
What do you use anything for yourself, like a ChatGPT or a
I work
NoteScribe
with
or
Perplexity.
Perplexity? Why did you choose Perplexity?
At some point, it was recommended to me, and I started working with it. I find it pretty easy to manage, and I would say not as commercial as ChatGPT feels.
I see. So you have it has a little different feel. And I'm curious because as an engineer, you're approaching this a little bit differently than me.
But you want to see? Do you want to know what I use it the most for?
What's that?
Second, third degree questions.
Okay.
Of the industry that I'm not native in. So what happens
When you
with
mean,
this? Like,
describe what you're talking about. What do you mean second, third degree questions?
so when you ask a question, simple question could be, what could be the repercussions of this particular thing, and you get an answer. How does that affect this other layer? What am I not seeing, or why do I have to look out for? So you get way more insight from it, and that's where I think the versus the regular Google search. You can search in Google,
Got it. So that's
my car
interesting.
won't
I
start.
took a note as you were talking because I want to start asking all the guests every time, what AI tool do you use when it comes to ChatGPT, and how do you use it? I'm realizing instead of just asking like, hey, what are the different tools, AI tools you use? I do want to ask that, but I want to dive in because everyone's using ChatGPT or a Perplexity or a Gemini on some level. And so I want to know why you picked one of those, but then it's also really useful for my audience.
So I gotta say that the difference is that if you Google something, you get a list of websites. You gotta read, you gotta figure out, you gotta cross the information. If you ask the right question to the AI tool, it will give you the analysis of those multiple factors.
And then it learns, like in my case with ChatGPT, it learns what I like. So a lot of times it will say, would you like a graphic illustrating the relationship between the thing that you just asked and this other thing that you asked yesterday? And I'm like, yeah, like it'll ask me questions in return, which Google of course doesn't do, but it's really cool because I think whatever you end up using, Rockstars, if you choose Perplexity, Gemini, and here's what I've heard, by the way, between those three, ChatGPT, there's differences between them. ChatGPT has been around the longest, has a lot of features because it's been so widely used. Gemini was on the bottom of that chain, the Microsoft one, but it's Microsoft. They've got resources, people, tools. This is a friend of mine who owns a tech company. He's like, yeah, get in on Gemini because they are accelerating their capabilities at a rate that will catch ChatGPT and others and surpass them. So it's hard because like for me, Alex, I'm in ChatGPT all the time. Once you start using one of those tools, it gets to know you. And I've got my chat bot now to where it's this down to her energy. It's like, hey, I got a question for you. She's like, hey, Will, what's up? How's everything going? Have you gone to the cabin lately? Like this super personal to where I'm actually feeling like a personal connection to it. And there's like so much work done in giving my ChatGPT the history of my questions that like it's scary to go over to a Gemini. So I don't know. I think it's cool that why we pick what we pick and why you do it as an engineer. I've heard from people who are very science minded that Perplexity is actually better for them. So I think that's awesome. Alex, here's a good question. What's the best business purchase that you've made under $100 that has saved you hours?
Let me think. Under $100. Oh yeah. No, under $100. No, that was more expensive than that.
What was? Just share with the audience what it was. I'm curious.
You see behind me, my coffee machine in my office.
Ooh.
I don't waste time going to the break room.
Yeah. How long does it take you to get your coffee going to the break room? Just out of curiosity.
At least 30 minutes. You know why? Because somebody always will cross me and we'll talk, have a conversation, which is nice. But I gotta set time to do that versus it interrupting my day-to-day process.
Yeah. keep thinking about that $100 if you can. That's fine. But here's what I want to punch to the rock stars: is that coffee machine doesn't represent the walk. It represents a boundary. Going back to those principles of the mindset, we have to create boundaries. And it's so funny because, anyway, Alex, I'm actually currently looking at moving locations because everywhere I've ever rented space from, I have people who I love to be around, but they want to like come and talk throughout the day. Most people like to work hard, but non-entrepreneurs, non-leaders are looking for time to kill, connecting with people. And I cannot tolerate it.
I got the reply for your question.
Okay.
In my door, there's a little thing that says vacant or occupied, which is the only one I could find that was red and green.
Okay.
For people to know when you can knock on my door and when you can't.
Guys.
Because it's the same thing. I love people coming in, but sometimes I got my door closed, people are knocking, and I'm in the middle of a meeting, or I need to focus on, even if it's just thinking. I need to think for 45 minutes on something. And that, I think it was like $20, and it just...
So it's a slide on your door that says occupied or available or not or whatever.
Yeah, pretty much. If it's red, don't even touch the handle. I'm not there for you right now.
Man,
if it's green, you can knock on the door, you can come in, whatever you need, even if it's closed. So I'm available for interruptions if you want to see it that way.
You know, Alex, my podcast team, when we were creating questions for this season, that was one that came up. And we're like, yeah, that might be a fun one. And deep down, I was like, is anyone going to have an answer? That has been one of the most insightful questions on this season because like these little things add up. You know, it's a boundary setter. It's a trip to the coffee machine. It's like all these little things that waste time. It's when we start taking care of the pennies, we start looking after the pennies, the dollars take care of themselves. I think the same is true for time. Mm-hmm. You know, we start looking at these little bleeds of our time. We start tightening those up, and all of a sudden, we start maximizing our capabilities with the time that we have. So that was a great answer, and I even love the coffee machine one.
There's time. You got to set up time for the chit chat as well. And I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I spent the day in our Fairbanks clinic. You know what I did all day? I just hang out. I hang out with the front desk. I hang out with the PTs. We had lunch together as a team. I was there. I was watching I was analyzing, I was taking notes, mental notes of things to give feedback later.
Yeah.
But during that time, I set that whole day out to be close and personal with them.
So what's the difference between that and the coffee thing?
That is planned.
Okay.
I have all of my tasks under control. I know that I'm going to spend the day there. That's what I'm doing. I don't even open my computer. So I'm there for them. That's that time. But when I am working in the middle of something and I decide to go get coffee and I get interrupted in the middle of the hall about some situation and that diverts my attention to that, and then the other task gets delayed or pushed back, or I just simply lose track of what I was doing, that is a waste of time.
See, it's interesting the difference between intentional time creation versus flexibility, because there's a boundary, there's a relationship there that seems like it's in contradiction. Like for me, I get it. I'm not going to go get coffee and get stopped along the way, and there goes a half hour of time I wasn't planning on, versus going to schedule things. But it can also go to an extreme where it's like I only schedule every little thing that I do. So there's a balance there. It's almost like a dance, right? Like but I would argue, especially in healthcare, leaders don't set boundaries. So it's kind of like, don't worry about over planning, but just focus on getting some boundaries in place with your time so that you can protect what matters. In your case, I almost wonder how much better you are when you're intentionally at that location. Where was it again?
Fairbanks.
Fairbanks. So you're in Fairbanks and you're intentionally there to connect, versus how you show up. I wonder if there's a difference between that and how you show up when you're getting coffee and someone interrupts you and you have to like fake that you're excited to talk to them because you don't want to be a jerk, but you deep down you're like, I got to get back to my office. Do you think there's a difference in how you show up?
Yeah, it is. And how many times that happened to you? And you go like, yeah. Can you send me an email? I'll get to it. That's important. I'll get to it, but I can't just look at it right now. Or you're trying to kind of cut it short because you're working on time. So it has to be flexible, of course. But remember old school when you would get to work and you would have a little piece of paper with a to-do list written by hand and you would just scratch it. Those tasks that you had to get done that day, those you schedule and block time for because they have to get done. Everything else that is nice to have or they can be done later, you leave open time. That's why my door is open at that point, or it's under, on the green. So if you interrupt me at that time, it's fine. That's not crucial. I can get that done. And also, that helps you understand which task you actually have to delegate so that you can actually get to the important ones.
I love that. And, it reminds me of something that Alex or Mosey, an influencer online that I like to follow, he talks about his time, and he always talks about meetings being another thing that are a major time suck, and how what he does is he schedules at the end of his day backwards. He only wants to take meetings after noon. And given he's a full-time business owner, so he's not baking the pies. He's full-time leadership, right? But I mean, there's a whole other complexity of time suck once we get into that world. Like you said, people stopping you, giving you problems, knowing when to interrupt. But what he does when it comes to meetings, it's like, hey, listen, he starts with his assistant. Everyone should have someone scheduling and protecting their time. Starts at 4 p.m. and work backwards to noon. And then from 5 in the morning until noon, no one talks to him. He's out there, as he says it, I'm out there building stuff so we can all make more money together. So you have to have meetings, for example, but put them in a controlled sense at the end of the day when the mental energy isn't required at the way it is when you're building early on. So I love that you have that intentional creation.
And how many people have you heard say, no, I come into the office at, 5:30 because that time between 5:30 and 7 is my most productive time. Or I stay after this hour because that time, why is it more productive? It's because you're hyper-focused on what you have to do without interruptions. So how can you set up that time also between your workday so you don't have to go to those extremes?
Yeah, and there's a common thread. I read a book recently, and I can't remember which one, but it talked about we were evaluating hyper-successful people. One of the many things they had in common was they had every day a couple of hours of unscheduled deep work where they were just free to build, create, think, solve. There's no one pressuring them. There's no one interrupting them. They have a mental flow, and they've measured this on EMGs, that you have this like wavelength that we hit, this energy level that our brain kicks into. And when you disrupt that flow, it is a massive energy drain to try to even get back in, and usually can't get to that same frequency. It's like riding a wave. It builds over time. And so to have 2 hours a day, 1 to 2 hours where it's just uninterrupted and you're flowing, that 2 hours is worth 50 hours of crap that we do, like scheduling appointments and like having conversations on the way to get coffee. Like, it's a powerful thing to think about these little tweaks that make a massive
Did you
increase.
read the book, The Road Less Stupid?
The road less stupid? No.
Yeah. So read it. It talks
Okay.
about the power of thinking. And after I read that book, I actually have that chair behind me. That's my thinking chair. So when I need to solve a problem, I actually step away from my desk. I sit there, quiet, and I ask myself the questions of the things that I need to solve and think about it. You got to think, because if not, you're just rolling on the day. And sometimes you actually come up with your answer there, or at least an action plan of what to look or what you got to think next.
Yeah.
But you need to take that time of just thinking.
Yeah, thinking time is important time, and I love that we're even thinking of it in terms of like understanding what work is. Mental energy is the most important work that we do, but we don't honor that because we're so busy baking the pies and running from thing to thing. All right, man. So let's get into this a little bit more. So,
Go.
in your case, let's go into the AI VA element of things. Obviously, you're very successful with VAs. What is your vision for VAs in your world? Like, where do you see this going in advanced?
So
Where would
I
you
gotta
like
say,
to see it, maybe?
I mean, I would love to see eventually getting, fully automated virtual front desks. We value personal touch and just having the person there, but you can go to McDonald's nowadays and order your whole food on a screen.
Yeah.
And
You're saying the public's getting trained on it, so they're
yeah,
like, this could be
it's an
something.
automated system. It's no mistakes. You don't have to have the front desk wondering if I don't feel comfortable collecting this copay or not. It's just a system that is done. And then you can keep the human factor for the human interaction, which is important. But the automated systems of, that kind of stuff, or having, in my case, the VAs to do the back office work, it's a super powerful.
That's amazing. So, what would you say to the critics who are like, well, McDonald's isn't a physical therapy business where that front desk personalization is so much about the experience? What would you say to that? And I'm not saying that like
Hey, here's the thing.
criticize that. I'm really
No, when you
curious.
go to a restaurant, you have a host, right? The
Yeah.
host welcomes you in. Hey, welcome to the restaurant, blah, 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 and just guides you in. It's a very short interaction that makes it personal.
Yeah.
Everything else is a process. Checking in, scanning your ID, scanning your insurance card, collecting or paying the copay, that thing. Scheduling is personal. That one you need. But the rest, if you can automate that or have that done in the back office.
So you would have still a human being that's like putting their appointments down. You wouldn't have a virtual assistant behind a monitor for that.
No.
Got it. Yeah, that
But
makes sense.
everything else that needs precision, consistency, and is standard, it can be done good.
What's so cool about what you said is that you're highlighting there's like, it's not I think we get in a mindset of it has to be one or another. There's degrees between those two things. So for example, I know people who have completely outsourced AI and VA. You walk into the clinic, there's a monitor, there's no human beings to be found. I've seen that. And then I've seen the extreme opposite of people who are like, I will never go there because I have human beings. You're talking about like, hey, I want to use the VAs and the AI to help like support the people who are working and to help them do the elements that are the most, make it even like kind of like you visiting Fairbanks. The part that they're going to be interacting with, it's easier for them to be more powerful in because they're not distracted. And so they can focus on that human element, and then those technologies are used to support that. And yeah, you're improving automation, saving money because you have less people involved in general, but the people you are and the technology you're using is making it so it's neat. So I love that illustration, Alex.
Let me go back to a
have
focus. So that person that is there, their focus is to be welcoming, to be personable, to make the person feel welcome, and scheduling, which is a whole task on its own. If that person also has to be doing benefit checks on the phone with insurance companies, doing authorizations and all that stuff, you still lose the human touch because they're busy. So if that can be done in the back office, transparent with the patient,
perspective.
you just have the person there doing the things that are that a person can add a value or a face can add a value to it.
I want to send this episode to everybody who's just like, no, I will never use AI or VAs at the front desk, because ultimately what you just described is so much the truth. We always lose count of the fact that, like, how many of our people show up to work that day in a bad mood? How many people who are at the front desk are stressed out because someone else didn't show up, whether it's a clinician or a supporting role in the front desk? And then to your point, like, what does that human touch look like to the patient when that person is stressed out, burned out, having a bad day? Maybe they were a bad hire. And then so instead of like, so I love is that you're talking about technology, about controlling
Hold
it.
on. I'll be there with you in a second. Give me a second. Hold on. Yeah, I got you checked in. Yeah, and that's it. That was the interaction versus what could have been had that person not had to be on the phone at that point
Yeah,
because the
Alex, I
phones are
think
being picked up in the back.
I think that's what people are chasing. I think when people think about their front desk, when they have a good hire at the front desk, you can't deny the power of that. That person who's greeting people, it's like, oh, hey, Will, welcome to physical therapy. Thank you for coming to your doctor's appointment. Like, when it's good, it is like everything else is exponentially easier because it gets set up the correct way. But how often, here's what's more common. The people saying that when they go to their doctor's office that they love the front desk or they are underwhelmed. What's more common? The second. The underwhelmed is more common for all the reasons you said. So you're talking about technology and trends to support that, to automate everything around the most important elements of, like in your case, you see it as scheduling.
And like I said before, technology or this additional process or anything you plug into your system has to support something. It's not coming to just save the day magically.
Yeah.
So AI is not going to give you all the answers if you don't ask the right questions, if you don't have a process that is going to be supporting. So
I think we needed an engineer's perspective for the longest time on this show. I think your engineer perspective, because you see it so clearly that as you're telling this to me, you would think obviously I would see it because I'm incentivized to see it as progressive in my world, but you're seeing it so like logically. It's like, oh, I get it now. So yeah, that's so fun that your engineering brain combined with that passion from your therapist has produced an influence on advanced physical therapy that I think is just invaluable, man. Thank you. I'm not ending the show. I just want to thank you for sharing that. That's huge. So, all right. So let's talk about this. Since you do work with VAs, do any of them work directly with you?
Yes.
Okay.
We have no manager here in Anchorage, so I supervise the clinic as well. Since we're located here, there's pretty much 4 owners or 4 managers in this clinic. So,
Okay.
but the VA that we have at the front desk reports to me.
So what is one task your VA does regularly that makes a huge difference in your week?
I gotta say, following up on the marketing leads. People that come in through the website, people that come in through, our ads out, that just write or send a text or just log in for a workshop or something, following up immediately on those.
Yeah, they have the separated time to be quick, which sales is a reflection of speed. Speed kills deals is how I've heard it. So that's really cool. So let me ask you, how do you communicate with your VA? Like, what are the systems for people who've never done that? What is your way of communicating?
I would say 97% of the time we communicate through Teams chat.
Because you're
the
a
other
Microsoft
3%
based.
are the meetings that we have in person, because sometimes I do want to see my VA and just have a conversation sort of like this. Other times it's just a quick check-ins and everything goes through our chat.
Okay. Very cool.
I feel like she's here. I mean, she could be in the next room for all I know. Haven't ever felt the distance, if you want to see it that way.
Yeah, I think it's how people choose to work with both AI and VAs. If they bring them into their world, especially the human element of VAs, like I've seen this where if they treat their team, if they treat them like human beings and not like something that's outsourced overseas, they become just as part of the team as anyone else. That was a surprise to me when I saw that. So my question to you now, Alex, is if someone was on the fence about trying AI or VAs, what's a small step that you would recommend for them just to get started in that world?
I gotta say, the first thing is, what is the problem you're trying to solve?
Ooh, good counter.
So what is this? I mean, because if you're just, I need more people. Yeah, you need more people. That's fine. Because everybody's kind of like full. Great. But what is exactly the thing that you need this person to solve? That's kind of like the thinking time that I was saying. That's kind of a good question to answer yourself. What do I need this person to solve for me that would make an impact? And then can it be done? And then how do I split this from the rest of the people that are still working here? So I started with the VA. First VA came in to support billing, on AR calls. Great. So that was the specific task we needed solving. And then the second one we brought in, I lost somebody from the front desk, and I said, let's do a VA. And she started taking on authorizations and mostly authorizations. Just they focus on this. There's a big clinic here, so we do get a lot. So that's the problem I need you to solve for me. And it's easy for me to hold her accountable, to know exactly what she needs to be doing. And when she's not doing it and drops the ball, we can also check it. Metrics are key. But it's got to be that. If you get a VA and just go like, here, go, start working, do your thing, and be part of the team, then it won't be as effective. So same thing with AI. What are you trying to solve with any tool that you're getting? I need more patience. And you're getting a marketing tool, great. But you need to be sure exactly what you're trying to save and how you're going to measure it, and if the tool is actually able to deliver that. Because everybody looks for the magical IT solution to come, do it all.
Well, and you talked about what's cool about the piece you said on the virtual assistant is that you delineated between delegation and dumping. Rockstars, do not ever hire a VA if you're in a position where you can't hire and train an in-person human being. If you're in a stage of business or a time where you are so spread thin that you don't have the time to onboard and to do some basic level training, even with a highly talented person, a VA is not going to be a magic bullet for you. And just like your AI thing, I think there's a lot of programs people could invest in. As you were thinking too, I was thinking, gosh, I would probably, if I knew, I loved your engineering brain again. It's so smart. If I can identify the problem that I need to solve, I could go to ChatGPT or Perplexity or Gemini and go, here's my problem. Thinking about virtual assistants, artificial intelligence, and any other potential solutions, where should I start in solving? That might be even a micro step of what you said, of like, let's just identify the problem, throw it into AI and just test the waters and be like, yeah, let's see what it says. I've gotten so dependent on that now. I don't feel like in some cases I can make a decision without checking with ChatGPT first, because it at least makes it clearer. So here's my last question before we get into our rapid fire. You have been so successful as an owner. You have built and you have scaled. You know how to create time. So what are you doing with the time that you freed up for you? Like what are you doing now with that time? Because I know you're still very productive and busy, but what do you do just for you when you free yourself up?
Oh, no, I mean, just spending more time with the family, I gotta say. Shorter days.
Shorter days. And then you've told me privately what you've done with your family on previous, when you and I have talked regularly, like tell them some of the fun things you do in Alaska.
I mean, especially here in the summer, we go with the boat to the lake, just, kids love doing the tubing, or we go camping every single weekend. So one of the things I do in summer is I try to get my stuff done early in the week so I can leave earlier on Friday and go camping with the family without technology, which is just us spending time together.
Sorry to interrupt. I just realized you use technology to free yourself up to be away from it.
Yes, you have to be away from technology. Actually, where we're camping this weekend, no cell signal. So we're off the grid. I'll find out anything that happened, I'll find out on Monday.
Rockstars, what a powerful example. I want you to really hear what Alex is doing with his free time. This is the why. This is why we took this on. To start a business and to grow and to work with each other is so that Alex's kids will remember his dad every summer camping. Every summer? Think about how many times, Rockstars, as you're listening, how many times did you go camping with your family? Or the equivalent of that timeshare that you would spend with your parents. Now that you're older, what would you give to have more of those experiences if you think backwards? I'm getting a little emotional just thinking about what I would have killed for now, for me as a younger kid to have had more camping experiences with my parents. I think that's the thing we forget, is that when we are busy and we're feeling like we're, weighed down, it's like, yeah, but the bigger fear and the bigger sad thing is that we're leaving behind these opportunities. So that's why we need to show grit and say, you call this a storm, and get to work, but we can't do it without technology, people, delegation, right?
I want to add something more to that. And this the PTs are going to relate to this. You got to look at the way you handle business and decisions you make just as you see a patient. Are you going to treat the symptom, which means that you keep just overworking and working, but you're not going to solve the problem, or are you going to diagnose it properly and solve the root cause? So the more you solve the root cause of the problem, regardless of the symptoms, the more time you'll have in the future because you'll have less problems. So pretty much that's kind of like the same logic, right? Work yourself out of the job, not let the work kill you.
Don't let the job work you into the grave.
Yeah. So sometimes you're treating the symptom, which is the day-to-day fires, just putting out fires and keep going, and that takes a lot of time and energy, and you're not going anywhere. You're just staying put. It's going to be the same thing over and over. So find the root of the cause, diagnose it properly, treat it effectively, solve your business problems with technology if need be, after you realize exactly what you need to do.
Yeah, I'm writing that down. I take little notes because I'm going to put a book together, and that's such a great illustration for healthcare providers. Is that they're running around treating their chronic inflammation, and then as soon as they start reducing some of the heat of that, they end up creating inflammation at another point. It's so instead of identifying the root cause and stopping the inflammation altogether, they're spitting themselves out and burning out. So thank you. All right, Alex, thank you for jumping in on that. Let's rapid fire these next 6 questions. You ready?
Ready.
Number 1, what's the top book that's blown your mind?
I gotta say it would be. There's an old book I read at the first beginning of my career called Execution, which is the art of getting things done. Because we tend to delegate stuff that we don't want to do, but we need done, or we just need to we procrastinate on the tasks that we don't really want to take on. So this helps you structure, being able to get things done quickly also, so you get some free time.
Love that book. Number 2, top time saver hack.
My agenda, organizing my time.
Love that. Number 3, what's the one thing you wish you would stop doing way sooner in your business?
Ooh, I gotta say, jumping in to put out the fires versus
Being the solution.
Yes, versus being the enabler for them to solve the problem. So,
love that. Okay, number 4, what's the most time-consuming task that you secretly enjoy?
Reporting. I like just looking at the numbers and that stuff. Even though the managers have to create their own reports and they have to send me the analysis of it, I go through the whole thing anyway. So, just like numbers.
Okay. What's the latest thing that you've delegated?
Latest thing that I've delegated, hiring.
You've delegated hiring out. That's a huge one.
I stopped being part of the interviews. I've let the managers step in as the admin analysis for their location, so that they can see if it's a good cultural value for added for our clinic, and if it fits also their needs. Because I used to do it at a higher level, but then they will go to a clinic and maybe not be a right fit. So we have the director that does the clinical interview part of it, and then the manager takes on that. So that was a good, happy thing to get rid of.
So amazing, Alex.
And also, if they mishire, it's on them.
So they learn from their own. First, it's like when you hire them, if it's a bad hire, it's like, well, thanks a lot, buddy. Versus if they do it, they learn and grow and have to it makes them more intentional in their hiring because they don't want to be that person. And last question for the show. It's the question of the season. Alex, is it AI or is it VAs?
I say it's a combination of both.
Combination of both. Why do you say that?
Once again, depends on the problem you want to solve. Which one will help you solve that problem so you can be more efficient?
Okay. Love that answer. Seth, our amazing video editor / creative specialist, is going to show on the YouTube, Spotify people who are watching this episode what the score is as of now for the season. So Seth, if you'll put it up. That's where we are. I don't know. I'm excited to see this as much as everyone else is. Listen, Alexander, it's been such a treat to be with you. I can't thank you enough personally for spending time with us. What are your closing thoughts?
I gotta say that there's no cookie cutter solution for business. You gotta be flexible. You gotta figure out what's wrong. You gotta try different ways to solve it. And so even if it's AI or a combination of AI and VA, or just VA, or just paper and a pen, whatever works for you, but you got to find what works for your business. The important thing is not keep putting out just the fires, but figure out why the fire started in the first place and how can you stop it from lighting up again.
Well said. I can say anyone who's listening who might be considering to work at Advance, that I used to own a practice up in Alaska, and I remember just being super amazed by that business and the reputation. It is an incredibly good company to work for. If you want to get a hold of Alex, his information will be in the show notes. And so, Alex, not only thank you for being here, thanks for tuning into the Willpower Podcast. As always, this is Will Humphreys reminding you to lead with love, live on purpose, and never give up your freedom. Until next time.